You finally hit $100, not $10,000, not $50,000, $100,000. And for a second, you just stare at the number because you remember how hard it was to get there. The months you invested when you didn't feel like it, the vacations you skipped, the old car you kept driving while everyone else upgraded. But now, you finally made it, six figures. And then you check your friend's portfolio, $250,000. What? You started investing around the same time, similar salaries, same economy. They didn't win the lottery. So how are they suddenly $150,000 ahead of you? Here's the part nobody tells you. Something changes once you reach a certain level of wealth, a point where your money stops being just a number you're saving and starts making more money for you. That point is $100. Before $100,000, you're doing almost all the heavy lifting, your paycheck, your saving, your discipline. But after 100,000, your money finally starts pulling its own weight. The same 10% return that once made you $500 can eventually make you $10,000, then $20,000. And that's when wealth starts to feel completely different. But here's the problem. Most people quit before they ever get there. You save $500 every month, you skip vacations, you keep the old car, and 2 years later you check your account expecting something life-changing. Instead, 13,000. That's it. Meanwhile, you're scrolling online and seeing someone casually post, "My portfolio just crossed $400,000." And you start wondering, am I doing something wrong? Am I too late? But the truth is, the beginning is supposed to feel slow. For many people, the first $100,000 can take 8 to 12 years. The second $100,000, it can take only 4 to 6 years. Not because you suddenly became twice as smart, because your money is finally big enough to make a real difference. But reaching $100,000 isn't enough. Some people get there and immediately destroy the momentum. They upgrade their lifestyle, buy the expensive car, move into the bigger house. And suddenly, the money that was supposed to work for them is working to pay for a lifestyle they can't afford. So today, we're breaking down exactly what happens after you cross $100,000. Why the first $100,000 feels so painfully slow. Why the next $100,000 can come dramatically faster. The biggest mistake people make after reaching six figures. And what separates the people who continue to $500,000 from the people who reach $100,000 and stay there for the next 10 years. Because $100,000 isn't the finish line, it's where the game starts changing. Let's get into it. Here's the lie most people are sold. If I save consistently, my wealth will grow consistently. Makes sense, right? You put in the same effort every month, so your results should grow at the same speed. Except they don't. And this is where a lot of people start thinking they're doing something wrong. Let's say you're saving $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year going into your investments. Now, let's say your money earns an average of 8% annually over the long term. In the beginning, your investment gains might be around $200 or $300 for the entire year. That's it. You're putting in $6, zeros in of your own money, and the market is adding a few $100s. So you work overtime, you skip vacations, you pack your lunch, you keep saving, and the results still feel painfully small. This is the part where people quit. Not because they're doing anything wrong, because the math makes them feel like their effort isn't working. Think of it like pushing a massive wheel. At the beginning, you push and it barely moves, but every push adds momentum. That is what the first stage of wealth building feels like. You are doing almost all the work. And then you make it worse by comparing yourself to people further ahead. You see someone with a $500,000 portfolio earning 8% a year. That's about $40,000 in growth. Meanwhile, you're working all year to save $6,000. It can feel like you're playing a completely different game, but they're not necessarily smarter than you. They're just further along the curve. Before you reach a certain point, your money simply isn't big enough to do much work on its own. You are the engine. Your paycheck and your contributions are doing almost everything. And that's why the first $100,000 feels so brutal. Charlie Munger once said, "The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it." And he said that after becoming incredibly wealthy, because he remembered how difficult that first milestone was. Now let's look at what changes when you finally reach it. You have $100,000 invested. At an average 8% return, that's about $8,000 of potential growth in a year, roughly $667 a month. Pause there. That's more than many people are able to invest every month. This is the crossover point. Before $100,000, you are doing most of the heavy lifting. After $100,000, your money finally starts becoming a second engine. And the difference becomes more obvious as your portfolio grows. For example, Delhi's $0 to $50,000 might take 5 or 6 years. $50,000 to $100,000 might take another 3 or 4, but $100,000 to $150,000, potentially just 2 or 3 years. And the next $50,000 can come even faster, even if you don't dramatically increase your contributions. Why? Because your previous money is still working while you're adding new money. That $500 you invested years ago didn't just sit there, it kept compounding. And now, for the first time, you start seeing the difference. You check your account on a random Wednesday, and it's up $300 since Monday. You didn't work overtime. You didn't start a new side hustle. Your money grew while you were asleep. That's the moment the whole thing starts to feel different. You stop feeling like you're doing all the work alone. The compounding engine is finally starting to carry some of the weight. But here's the dangerous part. A lot of people reach this point and then destroy the momentum they've spent years building. Because the next mistake isn't about saving too little. It's about what happens after you finally start feeling rich. And that's where things get interesting. Here's the dangerous feeling that shows up the moment you cross $100K. I made it. I can finally breathe. And honestly, I get it. You've spent years saving, saying no to trips, driving the same old car, living below your means while everyone around you seemed to be upgrading their lifestyle. And now, you finally have a six-figure net worth. You feel like you've made it. Not because you're actually rich yet, but because $100,000 feels like proof that you succeeded, and that's where the trap begins. You start thinking, I have $100K invested, but I'm still living like I'm broke. What's the point? So you start rewarding yourself. A nicer car, maybe a $600 monthly payment, a better apartment that's only $400 more each month, a vacation you've been putting off for years, a few extra subscriptions. Nothing crazy. And that's exactly why it's dangerous, because individually, none of these expenses feel like a big deal. But together, they can completely change your financial future. Before, you were saving $1,500 a month. That's $18. Zeros in a year going into investments. After the lifestyle upgrades, maybe you're saving $400 a month. That's only $4,800 a year. You just cut your wealth building power by more than 70%. And the worst part? You probably won't feel like you're falling behind. Your account still grows. 100K becomes $105K, then $110K. You're still moving forward, just much slower than you could be. Let's go back to the friend from the beginning. You both reach $100K at the same time. They keep investing $1,500 a month. You reduce your investing to $400 because of your new lifestyle. 4 years later, they might be around $200K. You might be closer to $140K, same starting point. Same 4 years, completely different result. And the gap keeps getting harder to close. The truth is, you didn't fail. You didn't make some ridiculous financial mistake. You simply started celebrating too early. You treated $100K like the finish line when it's actually the point where compounding starts becoming powerful. It's not the summit, it's base camp. You finally climbed high enough to see what the mountain can actually look like. But you still have to keep climbing, because reaching $100K isn't the real test. The real test is what you do after you get there. Most people think, okay, I've proven I can build wealth. Now I can relax. And that one thought can quietly destroy years of momentum. So here's the question that separates people who build serious wealth from people who stay stuck around the same level. How do you use the $100K milestone without letting it slow you down? All right. Let's define the danger zone. The stretch between $100K and $250K is where your financial future can go in two completely different directions. You still have 6 figures. You're doing better than most people. you're fine. But fine is often where people stop. The biggest mistake I see is people reaching $100 K and then keeping the exact same contribution rate forever. I'm already investing $1,000 a month. That's good enough. Maybe it is. But your income usually doesn't stay the same. You get raises, bonuses, side income, tax refunds. And if you don't give that extra money a job, it slowly disappears into lifestyle inflation. A slightly nicer apartment, more expensive dinners, a few more subscriptions, nothing dramatic, just a little more spending everywhere. So here's the rule. Every raise, bonus, or unexpected windfall gets split 50-50, half for your lifestyle, half for your investments. You still get to enjoy your progress, but your future gets to benefit from it too. Let's say your income increases by $10,000 a year. After taxes, maybe that's around $833 more per month. Instead of letting all of it disappear, you split it. About $416 for your lifestyle, about $416 automatically invested. Over 5 years, that's roughly $25,000 of additional contributions. With investment growth, it can become significantly more. And you still got to enjoy the raise. The key is automation, because if extra money sits in your checking account, you'll probably spend it, not because you're irresponsible, because available money naturally gets used. So the moment your raise begins, increase your automatic investment transfer. Don't wait until the end of the month to see what's left. Paid your future self first. And here's the identity shift that makes this sustainable. You're not someone who simply has money. You're someone who builds money. People who only have money tend to spend it to look successful. People who build money use it to buy freedom. That's the difference. Because every year you spend stuck at $100 K is a year your money could have been compounding towards something much bigger. This isn't about never enjoying your life. It's about not sacrificing your future every time your present gets a little more comfortable. Your $100 K isn't the finish line. It's the point where your decisions start becoming much more powerful. And if you protect that momentum long enough, you eventually reach the other side. Because here's what most people never get to experience. What happens when your money becomes big enough that the growth starts feeling almost impossible to ignore? The moment you cross $250 K, something starts to change. And it's hard to explain until you've actually experienced it. It's not just about the number, it's about how secure that number makes you feel. Let me show you the math first. If you have $250, zero invested, and your portfolio averages an 8% annual return, that's about $20,000 in potential growth over a year. Roughly $1,667 a month. Just think about that for a second. Your money could now be growing by more in a month than you were contributing when you first started investing. And that changes what you can do with your life. You could take a few months off work. You could leave a job you hate and take a pay cut to do something you actually care about. You could say no to a terrible boss, a toxic client, or a job that's making you miserable. And you wouldn't feel like your entire financial life was about to collapse, because your money has finally become a real safety net. This is where the psychological shift happens. You stop looking at everyone who has more money than you and feeling like you're falling behind. Not because you suddenly have more than everyone else, but because you finally feel secure. And honestly, that's what money was supposed to give you in the first place. Not a fancy car, not an impressive number on a screen, security. The feeling that if something unexpected happens, you'll be okay. The feeling that you have options. And real options are what freedom actually is. Now, here's what can happen if you reach $250 K and simply keep doing the basics. You keep investing. You avoid lifestyle inflation. You don't panic and make stupid decisions. Over time, $250 K can grow into $500 K without you needing to get lucky or pick the perfect stock. You don't have to time the market. You just have to stay in the game. And at $500 K, an 8% return could mean around $40,000 in potential growth in a single year. That's when the numbers start becoming hard to ignore. But here's the interesting part. You think reaching $100 K will finally make you feel rich. Then you reach it and you still feel like yourself. You think $250 K will finally make you feel like you've made it. Maybe it does a little. But the real change is much quieter. It's being at work on a terrible day and thinking, even if I leave, I'll be okay. It's getting hit with a $2,000 unexpected expense and feeling annoyed instead of terrified. It's being able to say yes to the things that matter to you and no to the things that don't, without immediately checking your bank account. That's the real shift. The first $100 K gives you momentum. The next $100 K gives you time. And eventually, the money starts giving you something even more valuable: freedom. And freedom doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job and moving to Bali. It means knowing you could change your life if you wanted to. It's the difference between having to work and choosing to work. That's the real payoff. Not the account balance, not the screenshot you could post online. It's the quiet confidence of knowing you built something that gives you options. You didn't just save money. You built a machine that keeps working for you. And once you reach that point, no matter what happens next, you finally know, I'll be okay. All right, let's bring this home. The first $100 K is the hardest part because in the beginning, you're doing almost all the work: your income, your savings, your discipline. But once you cross $100 K, something changes. Your money finally starts becoming a second engine. Your returns begin to matter. And the math starts working more in your favor. But that's also where a lot of people make their biggest mistake. They reach $100 K, feel like they've made it, upgrade their lifestyle, and kill the momentum right before it starts becoming powerful. That's why the stretch between $100 K and $250 K matters so much. The people who keep moving forward protect their momentum. They use the 50-50 rule: every raise, bonus, or windfall. Half for your life today, half for your future. And they automate it because the less you rely on willpower, the easier it becomes to keep building. The real reward isn't just a bigger portfolio. It's freedom, it's options. It's being able to face a bad financial week and think, I'll be okay. All right, let's bring this home. Here's what we just covered. The first $100 K is slow, frustrating, and honestly, sometimes demoralizing. Because in the beginning, you're doing almost all the work: your income, your savings, your discipline. You're pushing the entire thing forward by yourself. But once you cross $100 K, something starts to change. Your money finally becomes a second engine. Your investment returns start becoming meaningful, and the math slowly starts working more in your favor. But that's also where the trap begins. You reach $100 K and think, I finally made it. So you start rewarding yourself: a nicer car, a better apartment, more spending, and without realizing it, you can kill the momentum right when it was about to become powerful. That's why the stretch between $100 K and $250 K matters so much. This is where people tend to go in two completely different directions. Some protect their momentum. Others get comfortable and stay stuck. The people who keep moving forward don't necessarily have more discipline than everyone else. They simply build a system that makes the right choice easier. One simple rule is the 50-50 rule. Every raise, bonus, or unexpected windfall, half goes toward improving your life today, half goes toward building your future. And the investment portion gets automated, because the less you rely on willpower, the easier it becomes to keep going. But the real reward isn't just a bigger number in your account. It's freedom. It's having options. It's the voice in your head that stops saying, what if I can't afford this? And starts saying, even if something goes wrong, I'll be okay. So if you're sitting at $30 K right now and an $100 K feels impossibly far away, I want you to hear this. You're not behind. You're just in the hardest part. And now you understand why it feels so slow. The first 100K takes the most effort because you're doing most of the heavy lifting. But once you get there, the game starts to change. And $250 K stops feeling like some impossible dream. It becomes a matter of time, consistency, and protecting the progress you've already made. The people who build real wealth aren't always the smartest. They aren't always the highest earners, and they don't always get lucky. Most of the time, they're simply the people who understand the game well enough to keep going when the results still feel small. They don't quit in the fourth quarter. They keep playing long enough for the math to finally start working in their favor. So if this video helped you understand why the beginning feels so brutal and what changes once you break through $100 K, hit the like button. It helps more people find this breakdown. And if you want more videos about the psychology and math behind building wealth, subscribe. I drop a new one every week because the next milestone might be closer than you think.